just for fun, let's look at 2016, because it's politics and it's Washington, and we've only just finished one election, so we may as well start talking about the next. I think Chris Christie is a very interesting figure. He's a very interesting Republican who could perhaps shake up this system. He's somebody who is certainly not afraid of offending people. In fact, he doesn't seem to give a damn. He has a reputation as a bit of a bully, but maybe that's what you need, is a bit of a bully. And he's somebody that, when it comes to his own state, has shown that you can do what offends your party's base if you think it's in the best interests of your state. So I think Christie would be somebody who would be a very interesting kind of leader that maybe the country needs at the moment. Jeb Bush is perhaps another one who could say to the party, listen, and as he has done all along on immigration, we've got to reach out. We can't be a country club. I spent a day with him down here in Florida last summer, and he very clearly said, listen, if the Republican Party thinks it can be a country club that shuts its doors and that has this kind of us and them approach to Hispanic voters, we're not going to be a majority party for very long. It's as simple as that. And he's been dead right on that, I think, in terms of the immigration numbers, and the election played him out. He did say to me that it would be curious to have another Bush president, the third from the same family, and he recognized the fact that in a country of over 300 million people, it would say something about the gene pool or the talent pool if they kept having to go back to the same family. You did, after all, chuck us out, I think, a couple of hundred years ago for dynastic politics, but we got over that, and now here you are having more dynastic politics than we're having. So I think, you know, it would be a curious thing, and those issues are still there. Is this how America sees itself? Do you see itself as a country that elects 3 presidents from the same family? I'm not sure. I think that can sit uneasily a little bit with the people, but I do think that Jeb Bush is eminently qualified. He's a real policy wonk on things like education. He's done a great job in this state on education reform and on lifting up levels of literacy in the state. So I think he would be a very interesting candidate. And although I swear to myself that every time I do an election, I swear this is going to be my last election, and now I think I've done 4. So I clearly am not very good at keeping my promises. And I have said that by 2016, I'm really too old for this and I should be doing something else. But there is, of course, the prospect that we could have Jeb Bush running against Hillary Clinton, which would make it impossible to resist. And is she running? Everyone I know, and this is a fantastic Washington game at the moment, who you know, who knows, everyone I know who is or has been close to her thinks that she will eventually put her hat in the ring. She came out of being Secretary of State exhausted. Christ, I'd have been exhausted too, 300,000 miles that she traveled. She wanted a break, but their either hope or theory is that once she's had a break, once she's been rested, then she will realize that her dream of having a woman president is possible and that she is the best hope for doing it. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if Hillary Clinton decided that she was going to run. I mean, I think the reasons that she wouldn't run are partly her age, although she is very fit. She would be nearly 70 by the time of the next election, and she may decide that if you're up against somebody like Marco Rubio, who is a young Hispanic, the optics of that look pretty curious. But I think in the end she will decide that she has always wanted to break that glass ceiling. She's always wanted to see a woman president. She represented the country incredibly well. I can't tell you from my travels around the world how enormously respected she was. And how enormously respected, I should say, America was because of what happened between Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. I've interviewed politicians in other countries, particularly in developing countries, who have said to me, this is unthinkable in our country, that you could have 2 people who ran against each other, who were so bitterly opposed to each other, who had that long, drawn-out brawl of a primary season, and then she works for him and stands shoulder to shoulder with him and he to her. It was a real tribute to the politics of this country and to the state and the strength of American democracy. And I think that impressed and inspired people around the world, not just about her, but also about the state of this country, that those 2 people could work together. So I think she is a very viable candidate for America in 2016. And without being partisan, I would say I think it would be great to have a female president. Finally. We had Margaret Thatcher, of course, who we are remembering at the moment in Great Britain, but it has taken a long time for America to break through that ceiling. And I remember doing one story in the last election campaign and an editor saying to me, you know, why don't you do this story about why it is that it's taken America so long? Why is it that other countries around the world have had a female leader and America hasn't? And I came to the conclusion that this is about your system, that it's very hard in a presidential system for a woman to run by herself. And it's perhaps no chance that the first woman who may become an American president is the spouse of an ex-American president. You have to raise all of that money. You have to do all of that campaigning. You have to get yourself out there. And the leaders that have come up, the female leaders that have run their countries, tend to be in parliamentary systems, where you get elected as head of the party, as Margaret Thatcher was, and then you get lifted up by the party, and the whole party system takes you up. That seems to be a much easier system for women to lead in. But I do think it would be fantastic if in my lifetime, and to be able to say to my girls, look, you can do it. There is a female president, whether it was a Republican or a Democrat. Just the fact, I think, of having a woman in the White House would be amazing. Because as they say, if the 3 wise men had been 3 wise women, they would have showed up on time. They would have cleaned the stable. They'd have baked a casserole. They'd have brought appropriate gifts. And there would be peace on earth. Thank you very much.